Next.
Order number 3, messages.
Members making your way, please. Can you take your seats? Honorable members, as you are aware, Standing Order 41, subsection 5 of the National Assembly Standing Orders requires the Speaker to cause the transmission of any message received from the Senate at a time when the House is not in session to every member and later report such message to the House at its next sitting. In this regard,
right, so that is the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, just trying to make it clear for members of the National Assembly about some of the business that they need to transact today, but also later on we shall be giving you the live coverage of what is happening at the Senate, because the Senate Assembly is also having that special sitting today and tomorrow. But before we cross over live to the Senate Assembly, and the country was recently treated to drama in the Joint Legal Affairs Committee of the Senate and the National Assembly over contents of the Building Bridges Initiative Bill and questions on whether Parliament should amend the document. And so where did all this start and what other confusion has dogged the process? And just before we have that story that I've given you right now by our senior political reporter, Muremi Mwangi, we'll be explaining that later on. I'd like us to go back to what I promised you earlier on. We go back to Parliament, specifically the Senate Assembly, where they're also having that special sitting this morning. And a member of Senate is actually giving his contribution on that crucial meeting that they're having today, that special meeting, what they need to transact, the business that they need to transact. So crossover live too. We're actually live in Senate, so let's listen in.
I give the direction, Senator George Khaneri.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and mine is on the same. I was going to raise the same, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very important bill that we are going to be discussing, and our debate will be majorly also informed by the report of the Joint Committee. The Joint Committee has tabled the report just now, and for me, I have just had the first look at the report now. You do not expect me, Mr. Speaker, to make meaningful contribution, having looked at the report just now. So I want to propose further to the point raised by Senator Cheriot, that maybe we break for an hour for members to have a look at the report, then we can resume and go ahead with the debate.
Senator Linturi.
Mr. Speaker, probably it would also be important for you to be able to satisfy this House in terms of guiding us how we proceed. The reason being that, Mr. Speaker, you've referred to Article 257(8) on how this bill will have to be taken to have been passed by this House. Mr. Speaker, I also listened to your communication, and you almost suggested in your communication, it's like we won't be limited. Our debate won't be for either purposes of record, Mr. Speaker. We may not be able to amend this bill. And, Mr. Speaker, that being the case, and I may be able to differ slightly, is, Mr. Speaker, because when you look at Article 109 of the Constitution of Kenya, Article 109 talks about how the exercise of legislative power. And the exercise of legislative power, Mr. Speaker, is done through bills passed by Parliament and then assented to by the President. And I think that is the reason why under Article 257, Article 8, says when this bill is passed by Parliament and supported by the majority. I think this is the reason to why the Constitution itself is trying to stress the importance and the participation of this House in any process of lawmaking. So, Mr. Speaker, the question I want answered here, Mr. Speaker, is this. Yes, we've heard the direction that you've given us. We are very sure of what the Constitution provides for. Probably it would be important for you to tell us the position of the House of Parliament, whether this Parliament can have or participate in the lawmaking process or in such a serious issue like amending the Constitution without its involvement, without really considering what our issues are here, Mr. Speaker, and acknowledging the fact that the bill before us is being termed to as a popular initiative. The truth of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, the popular initiative, Senator, in my view, Senator Mr. Speaker, I'm on a point of order.
Okay. I just wanted to, before that,
yes.
I just wanted to intervene that, you know, there are two issues.
Yes.
One issue is for suspension of the House,
okay,
so that people go through the report, and now you are raising a substantial issue that we may not be able to discuss now.
Correct.
So I'm going to ask that maybe
I can hold my horses until the next
Yes, that you hold your horse.
Yes.
And the horses, so that we get the mood of the House on the suspension of the House so that people look at the report.
Then I can contribute to that one as the first Speaker.
Then later on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me agree with my brothers,
okay.
Anidi and the other one. We don't want to be ambushed. This is a very serious moment for this country. And I think we require time. The committee report on this bill cannot be brought here in vain. The committee report should be able to guide us on how we need to process this bill, or how the information that came to them from the public, we need to have a feel of what other people told the committee about this thing, because, Mr. Speaker, the people have spoken about the bill before us. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree. Let us be given some bit of time. Let us have an opportunity to interact with the report, because some of us probably have had an opportunity to look at the bill, others have not, and I think that will be able to enrich the thinking of the members when we are contributing to the bill. So I support the suspension of the House to give us more time.
Senator Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, I want to join the distinguished senator for Vihiga and Meru on what they have said, and of course my distinguished colleague from Kericho. Mr. Speaker, I walked in with the chair of the committee, the senator from Nyamira, and he was carrying a document this big. In fact, he was suffering under the weight of the document. And that is the document that is going to guide us in this debate. Mr. Speaker, we must appreciate that our primary role of legislation apart, legislation touching on the Constitution is the most important role that a House can play. And we want to do the right thing. To read that document that Senator Mogeni was carrying, for me as a lawyer, we require probably 2-3 hours. I can expect my colleagues who are educated in other disciplines to take a little more. I want to urge Mr. Speaker, I want to urge Mr. Speaker that one, we have hard copies of the document circulated to members For the reason, Mr. Speaker, that if you look at the documents even Senator Mutula is holding, they're heavily underlined with highlighters, with all manner of documents. So when we are told that the documents have been placed on our pads, you can't underline on the pad. You need to highlight what you want to use to strengthen your argument in debate. So I want to suggest that hard copies be circulated to all members immediately. Then we request, Mr. Speaker, that you give us at least this morning to read through this report and to come and start the debate. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with a statement that Senator Orengo made on this floor. It cannot have been the wisdom and intention of the framers of this Constitution that we intended to make Parliament either a conveyor belt or a rubber stamp. It can't be, Mr. Speaker. And we should unfet ourselves in our thinking and bisect and dissect this document so that we give the people of Kenya something that is important that helps this country move forward. I have casually looked at, for example, the report from the director of the National Bureau of Statistics. And it's very telling in our departure from what we are looking at. And we need, as a House, as we look at the national mood, as we want to help the country, we must also remember that the foundation of the Constitution 2010 and the philosophy therein was to right the wrongs of our history and to create absolute equity in the running and management of the affairs of this country that benefits everybody regardless, from the El Molo to me, the Luya, to you, the Luo, to you, the Kikuyu, to you, everybody. Equity is the bedrock of the foundation of our Constitution. Any departure from equity, Mr. Speaker, will undermine the cohesion, unity, and future of our country.
Senator James Orengo.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a little worried that we'll take a long time on this. Instead of taking a long time on this, I think actually we should be given a little time. Yesterday, I came looking for this document, and I was told I cannot be given a copy until it is tabled. Although I was a member of the committee, I still felt the need of having a hard copy. This is the kind of document that you cannot read it on the phone or on the computer and do justice to it. So I ask you, Mr. Speaker, to make a decision, because if you go on debating on this point, then it means we'll need the afternoon. But if you adjourn at this moment, we can take the whole morning going through the document. And I think there's some wisdom in saying so. You know, probably for a long time, we may be the only parliament that has the opportunity to debate an amendment of a constitution. First one. Yeah. So if it comes and we deal with it as if it was some cup of tea we were having, I think that would be very wrong. So I humbly beg that you make a decision now. We go and get a copy, each hard copy, with the annexures. You know, annexures are very important. I think the other thing that is making the document look big is the minutes. But I think the document, the report, and the annexures. In fact, if you want to understand the report properly, you must have the annexures also. Yeah, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of majority, you have something different, or so that I give direction.
Speaker, I just want to agree with members. Speaker, this is a very important, it's a special sitting, a very important sitting, but far-reaching impact. And so, Mr. Speaker, the only difference that I want to make is when you allocate time for coming back, the lawyers can come back early, and that the rest of us the rest of us can come later. They can have a head start. Speaker, I propose to the Speaker that you go ahead and make a decision for us, and we come back. Thank you.
Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., so that I give direction.
Thank you, Speaker. The Leader of Majority suggests that the lawyers come early. I'm sure they can. But Senator Orengo has raised an important issue about the annexures, Mr. Speaker. And I raised this issue with you, Speaker, privately. I was concerned about this report, and I said, and I asked you, and I must confess, I asked you to allow me to circulate a soft copy to the senators, just of the report, which I did. And I'm surprised that Senator Orengo was not allowed the report, because I have it and I was given. Mr. Speaker, that direction is useful. But more importantly for me is that the only way to debunk the things that have been going on in the media is to allow these members to read that report. The only way we will feel appreciated for the work we did is for these members to read the report. So give them time to read the report, and some of the annexures even mentioned by Senator Tangula will be useful for your information. Whether you amend this document or not, let this information, let the members see the work that we labored to make sure that everything was taken care of. Thank you.
Okay, I will allow Senator Murkomen by virtual. Senator Murkomen. Let's Ember Boot. Yes, Senator Murkomen. You are muted. Put on your speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Can you hear me now, Mr. Speaker?
We can't hear you.
Mr. Speaker, it is the administrators who should unmute me.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's very challenging to be on this side of the chamber, but I totally agree with the contributions of Senator Turi and Senator Kaniri. Mr. Speaker, this is once in a lifetime opportunity for us to make important contributions to the changes in our constitution, and the country is following. The whole nation is country. They want to know what the Senate is going to say about this very important subject. I don't think we should treat this process like the other process we've had. Every senator will use the 20 minutes that we have to be able to make contributions for posterity, and therefore,
Senator Murkomen, unfortunately, we can't get you clearly. But we can guess what you're saying, eh? Yeah. Let me give you a last chance to see if we can hear you.
Maybe the Speaker should send me a faster means of transport to land in Nairobi in a short while, so that I can contribute from the chamber. This process is too important, Mr. Speaker. Considering the weight of this matter, I support Senator Kaniri and Senator Ituri and Senator Cheriot that we should have more time for us to read the document and make weighty contributions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Senator Mogeni was the chair, finally.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, on behalf of members of my committee, I want to apologize for bringing such a voluminous report that has caused havoc to the House this morning. But it is because of the importance of the task that was at hand. And I also apologize, Mr. Speaker, that we have not been able to give the honorable members enough time to go through the report and internalize the issues arising. But, Mr. Speaker, since I was the chair of the committee and I've spent considerable time going through the contents of the report together with their annexures, I'm willing to volunteer, Mr. Speaker, if you order that we have a small Kamkunji once we adjourn. I'm willing to take the honorable members through very briefly the contents of the report and highlight the issues that have been pointed by the committee, because I know it's not easy. Mr. Speaker, it may not be easy for members to go through this report, but if you direct, Mr. Speaker, I can volunteer to take the committee through the contents of the report. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Cherargei, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my predecessor that he might have read the document very well, but my point is that if we allow him to take us through Kamukunji, he might want to share with us what he believes is right or wrong. So I think the best for us is to allow members to read on their own. They can internalize and understand. Then if there are issues that need clarification, then my good friend Senior Counsel Okongo Mugeni can be sought after. But saying for us to be taken through the Kamkunji, we are worried he might indoctrinate with us some of his beliefs on what BBI should stand for. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we should just adjourn up to afternoon 2:30. We come back, let everybody read for themselves, then we can come and discuss. Mr. Speaker, on your communication, since I have the mic, I have heard your communication. You said something about amendment. I don't know whether you are giving directions or you are advising that we can amend the document.
You read
because Mr. Speaker, on your communication, I just wanted to seek clarification.
Go
One, on the issue that Article 257, that you are advising or you are directing. Number two, Mr. Speaker,
you are now mixing up issues. Please, let's hold your horses.
Just on your communication, Speaker.
You go through the communication, it's very clear.
But I have not been supplied. Maybe finally,
yeah, I'll give
every Mr. Speaker, maybe finally, because this is an important process and every member must be with the House. Unless the promoters of this bill would want to go alone. But if they want to go with us, it's important we seek clarification. Maybe finally, Mr. Speaker, you can direct, because we saw a lot of things in WhatsApp and many other things, you can direct that every member should be provided not only with the report, but with the annexures. And I advise members, when you are reading this amendment bill, make sure you are annexed to the Constitution of 2010 so that it becomes easy to understand. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Okay, maybe the final one, because I want to, we don't have the luxury of time. Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be very brief. I think the two processes are not mutually exclusive. We can actually do both. Like we did during the revenue allocation process, it's just a presentation. Then we can have a bit of more time to go through that report, but we know what is where, and we've had a bit of insight. The committee is privileged to be more, informed about this report. Some of us are meeting it for the first or second time. So I think these two events are not mutually exclusive. We can have both of them. One, to make the presentation, and then the second one, for us to go through the report and then get ready for debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, senators. I want to give direction. Okay, Senator Nderitu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, as we to thank what Senator for Vihiga and Senator Cherio said, we need more time, but what we need is the document. And once we have the document, Mr. Speaker, as he's taking us through, then we'll be given time. In the morning, we read the document. Maybe from 2:30, we can have that Kamukunji. He takes us through that document. Maybe that one will have more information, Mr. Speaker, about the document.
Okay, order, honorable senators. I want to agree that this is a very critical moment for Parliament and Senate, for that matter, and therefore, following the request for time to read, using standing order number 1, I hereby allow the request. The Senate therefore stands adjourned to 2:30 p.m. today.
Speaker of the Senate Assembly, Kenneth Lusaka, giving that ruling that the Senate adjourns until 2:30 when members of Parliament will be, members of the Senate Assembly will be back. This is so as to allow members of the Senate, the senators, to actually go through the documents so that they can debate on the contents of the BBI bill, contents that they know about. However, with some,